667.
He called me the other day, and it was kind of interesting. He said, I feel kind of like a stranger in my own family. And, we talked a lot about that, and I said, I know the same feeling. Because it's kind of how I feel when I go home to Mom's.
Right. Do you feel the same thing at Dad's?
Not necessarily.
Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, so it's like me is the opposite, sort of, in a way.
It's like if you were to go to Dad's house, how would you feel?
Right.
You'd feel like a stranger in a strange place.
Uh-huh.
It's how I feel at Mom's.
Cloudy hair, he's always in his bed, across the meadow in the hay. Lying there without a single care, just dreaming lazy hours away. Little coat of blue, with dimples too, tousled hair and lips of rosy red. Live and learn, but still we always yearn to be a little drowsy head.
By analyzing the past, Sage can project into the future.
Hello, yes, this is Mary. How are you? Bye.
They say your kitchen dazzles every eye.
A brand new sink, a built-in oven, a new refrigerator, and a phone, a kitchen phone, a bright red phone. I gotta go. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. I'll call you later.
I got numerous individuals on the road. Do you want me to take those out? Take them out.
Hello?
Hey,
Hey. Not over yet.
they just said Carrie was conceding.
Oh, fuck. Are you kidding? Oh. What is wrong? No, bigger question. What is wrong with this country?
So who'd you end up voting for?
I ended up voting for George Bush. I voted for him because of I like his conservative religious beliefs, and I think that he's a good commander-in-chief against the war on terror. I hope that the one man, one woman marriage amendment gets passed, at least get it started.
I can't believe the way my father is voting right now. I have no idea. It sickens me.
The bad news is it tells us a lot about where his head is. Hello?
Hey,
Hey.
how's it going with you?
Good. have a job. The majority of Americans, in terms of the popular vote and the Electoral College, voted for President Bush to remain in office and to continue what he started. I think everybody would be best served to move along. I mean, I have not gotten one phone call from Mom, and I probably won't hear from Mom and Sandy for another 4 years or as long as I work for the damn administration. That's how bad it is. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, that's kind of ugly. And I don't know, if I can't fix the rifts in my family, I don't know how you go about fixing the rifts in the country.
Being two people without any kids, you were free to do a lot of your own things. And then it comes a time when folks feel a need to have children. Interesting story about that house, that the people that owned it first could not have children and they had to adopt. And who knows if adding on the addition changed the aura of the house or not. You know, it's just a thought that went through my mind. We couldn't have kids, so was it because of the house?
The Republican TV commercials assure us the economy is healthy, inflation's controlled, our leadership is great. But when I look around, I see every trip to the supermarket a shock, cities collapsing, suburbs scared, policemen cut, welfare skyrocketing. That's reality. The Republicans won't face up to it, but we can change it.
My hope and intention at some point is to leave government for a period of years, try to spend some time with my family as my children continue growing, try to walk away from the trees so I can see the forest.
Fred and I had tried for a long time to have a baby, a couple years, and it turned out that Fred needed an operation because his sperm were too hot and they were dying off, and that's why I wasn't getting pregnant. And after the operation, I did get pregnant and was very excited about the possibility of finally having a child. I was due, according to the doctor, on April 19th, 1976.
Oh, what a glorious day this is, the radical Sam Adams, hearing the muskets of Lexington, had exclaimed. A handful of farmers and tradespeople, their patience with the oppressive acts of a government 3,000 miles away, exhausted, struck the first militant blow of the American Revolution. Here once the embattled farmers stood and fired the shot heard round the world.
On April 19th, 1976, I began to have little crampy pains. So I got to the hospital, and when you get to the hospital, they like to throw you in a wheelchair. And I said to the nurse, this is just indigestion. I am not having a baby right now. And she said, when are you due? And I said, today. And she said, honey, you're having a baby.
You, Christopher, were born just a few hours outside of Easter. The most fun I had was holding you guys in my arm like this. You know, you fit right there, and it was just a nice thing.
appears that Tuesday's presidential election finally ended today. Pending an official canvass of the votes, it's now projected that Ohio has gone to Carter and Oregon to President Ford. That would make the final count of electoral votes Carter 297 and Ford 241.
Mr. Cheney, what happened? Is it because you peaked too early and sagged, or never peaked, or because you did something wrong?
No, I don't think so. I think we've spent the last day or two analyzing the campaign, and I'd want to spend a lot more time doing it before I drew any definitive conclusions.
As he got older, he was one of those toddlers who could play by himself. He would spend hours and hours, even as a little guy, playing with the blocks, setting them up. He was never much into big disasters happening or things being knocked down, never interested in wars being fought out between his little people.
Are you worried about global warming?
This is not the first time we've had global warming. The Earth goes through cycles. I also want to go back to the Bible in that at some point in time, Christ is going to come again and his kingdom is going to come to this earth. And the earth is not a perfect world because the sins in the world, things happen. And you can't blame the hurricanes on God. It's Mother Nature, but God created everything. So as Armageddon's coming and the end of the world is coming.
Knowing that it had been difficult to get pregnant the first time, I wasn't sure how successful and how quickly I'd be pregnant the next time because we wanted 2 children. Fred, having been raised as an only child and seeing the kinds of difficulties he had with having attention centered just on him and being kind of alone in his growing up, I didn't want that to happen to Christopher. And sure enough, Jennifer arrived.
This is an ABC News special. The Iran crisis. America held hostage. Day 58.
While the Iranians burned an American flag in front of the embassy, they said the takeover had the express blessing of the Ayatollah Khomeini.
Excuse me, Governor Reagan. Would the sound man please turn Mr. Reagan's mic off for the moment?
I am paid for this microphone. With a deep sense of commitment, I accept your nomination to serve as our party's candidate for vice president on a ticket headed by the leader of our party and the next president of the United States, Ronald Reagan. I accept.
Can anyone look at the record of this administration and say, well done? Can anyone compare the state of our economy when the Carter administration took office with where we are today and say, keep up the good work?
Jennifer was a very different baby than Christopher. I carried her around while I cooked, while I cleaned, for a number of months because she just was unwilling to be put down and entertain herself like Christopher had. And I used to joke that I was glad I had Christopher first because I would have thought twice about having another baby.
I was always thinking about what would it be like if Jennifer were the first and you were the second, because Jennifer's personality is different than yours in that she likes to be a leader.
And here he comes, President George W. Bush, the 58-year-old 43rd President of the United States. Born in New Haven, Connecticut, raised in Midland, Texas, graduate of Yale and the Harvard Business School, grandson of a U.S. Senator, son of a U.S. President. Only the second time in U.S. history that the son of a president became president in his own right. The first was John Quincy Adams.
This is my first convention. I thought it would be a lot busier than it actually was, but actually New York was very quiet.
Welcome to New York, now go the fuck home! Welcome to New York, now go the fuck home!
It was a lot like being in Washington, D.C., but in New York. It was kind of like we were all transplanted up there. And even from the New Yorkers' standpoint, everybody who lived in New York got out of town. So New York was very quiet other than the fact that the convention was on.
Stop Bush! Stop Bush! Stop Bush! Stop Bush! Stop Bush! Stop Bush!
Jeanette and I are really not very political, but we love our dad too much to stand back and watch from the sidelines.
I have really enjoyed being on the campaign trail with both of you. It's kind of like the camping trip I promised to take you on.
The bathroom's right there. There's the shower. There's your pants.
She's a teacher who wants every American child to read and discover a broader world of ideas.
I'm so proud of the way George has led our country with strength and conviction. Tonight, why do you think we should re-elect your husband as president? As you might imagine, I have a lot to say about that.
With you feminists aborting your babies and you homos killing each other with AIDS, us Christians are always going to rule the planet.
And remember, never has a president ever lost an election during the war. He said
that was 4 more months later.
I mean, the food's good, the booze is good, it's all free. It's a good chance for political folks to unwind.
What are you doing?
For work, I work for the Bush administration.
Oh my God!
Stop!
Power failure, Friday, 12:49 p.m.
What is that? Jennifer called me from the convention and let George Bush leave a message on my answering machine. So Chris, what are you doing about the election, huh? I protested against the Iraq War. Did you organize any of that? No, but I was counted. That did a lot of good, didn't it? What have you done since then? You You need to go talk to your sister. That's what you need to do. Why now? She works for Bush. Can't believe she works for Bush. You can't stand it. You need to do something about it. Can't stand it. You need to get up off the couch and you need to go. Okay, on the count of 3. 1. Okay. 2. All right. 3. Go. Go. You got your hair cut.
I did. I chopped it off.
When did you chop off your hair?
Like Easter last year, like April something, around your birthday.
So last time we hung out was...
Thanksgiving of last year.
Yeah, it was Christmas.
Oh, that's right, Christmas.
So took her home, and right away Christopher was fascinated with her, and I'd heard stories of older siblings wanting to crack their baby brother or sister on the head or do something to show their jealousy, and Christopher never did.
What's your earliest memory?
You know, that's a funny thing. Somebody asked me that the other day, too. I don't know. I don't know if my memories of what I remember are from pictures or if it's like actual memory. You know what I'm saying? Because I totally remember that picture of like you and me like laying on the couch in our little pajama feet bunny suits. I remember that ugly ass couch we had. It was like this brown, ugly, orange. You remember that couch? Yeah, it was ugly. It was really ugly.
Who pushed Osama bin Laden to the fucking brink? That's what I want to know.
Hey Jennifer, are you wearing Dad's suit? Hey Jennifer, didn't Dad wear a suit like that when you went to work at IBM?
I was working at IBM at the time, and I was a systems engineer, which is in essence a technical marketing rep type of person.
You were always the complete opposite. Like, it was like torture for you to like put on anything other than a t-shirt and your sweatpants with a hole in it.
You're right. Wearing a suit every day and going to the office seems like torture.
Like the sort of traffic that you get near my house usually, and you just follow it all the way in.
So how did you end up in Washington, D.C.?
In 2002, I decided I'd been at my job at the Chamber of Commerce for 2 years, and I'd done pretty much what I wanted to do there, and I'd always wanted to move to Washington, and interviewed for a couple of places, and then I ended up getting a job through my friend Dave at the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, and worked there until we all lost our jobs in January due to Smith's defeat. A friend of mine in New Hampshire who works for Senator Gregg recommended me to the White House and said that I had qualifications in terms of political background, campaign experience. I got approved, and then I interviewed at the various agencies, State Department, Department of Defense, and the Department of Energy.
Could you see yourself working in any of those other departments?
Definitely the Department of State. Defense is always intimidating because it's the Pentagon, and it's like such a huge, massive building. So.
Did the architecture of the building feel kind of like weird to you, or?
No, it's just the Pentagon, you know? And I didn't particularly care for the job over there. So
I sort of remember you saying something along the lines that the building or the place kind of made you feel a little strange and stuff.
Well, because it had been hit on 9/11, and I interviewed in an office that hadn't been there for some time because it had been hit, and that was a little eerie. Job opened up in the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy doing congressional work, which is what I wanted to do. And I went down to interview there, really hit it off with my boss, and got the job.
Your sister used to run Amnesty International in high school? Yeah, and in college, she volunteered for Global Exchange. What happened?
The Department of Energy is one of the ugliest buildings, I think, in Washington, D.C.
Is it energy efficient?
No. We're getting there, though. Department of Energy, just like any other federal building, was built a long time ago. DOE was originally built, I think, to house old military records, so you'll kind of see that. That's what I need to get in the building. I'm the advisor for legislative affairs to the Assistant Secretary for Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, Dave Garman. The Assistant Secretary is also currently the Acting Undersecretary for the department, which makes him the number 3 guy. And so with that came additional legislative responsibilities, tracking some other issues, not just renewable energy and energy efficiency stuff. I work liaison with other agencies as well, and also to sort of serve as the point of contact in the office from the Hill, or for the Hill. You turn around again. Well, I'm just saying, in the grand scheme of things, $30 million in a $1.2 billion budget that the Office of Energy and Efficiency and Renewable Energy has control over is not a huge amount of money. But in a program area such as like the hydrogen program, $30 million can make or break whether or not we meet our R&D goals and our targets long term. So this $30 million here has impact to something as long term as 2050. The government funds those research and development projects because it's fundamental research that private corporations won't make because it's high risk. So the federal government's job in our instance is to fund the basic research and to fund the high risk research, and then partner in the long term with private industry that will then take it to a commercialization decision. So the thing about DC is it's very hard to meet like good friends. And I mean, you'll have a lot of work colleagues and you'll know a lot of people and have a lot of acquaintances, but a lot of times it's all you hang out with people and you talk about work or you do this. And so like I really have very few friends, and a lot of my friends have very few friends. And what I mean by very few friends, I mean people that like you'd really call on to help you out in a bind or who would be there for you.
My friend Chris, who's one of my Democrat friends, works for minority at the House Science Committee, so.
I know Jim because we work together on energy issues. I do renewable energy policy, among other things, for the House Representatives.
And so how do you explain your differing political orientation?
I think I've come to different approaches in life where I'm a social moderate.
I don't know many people that are genuinely political that can just do political work at work. Because it sort of defines who you are.
In terms of where I align myself with the Republican Party, it's predominantly because I believe in individual responsibility. Now that might lean away from what you hear about our fiscal responsibility, states' rights.
Whereas your brother believes in total irresponsibility.
There's very few things that really fall into ideological lines.
Was the Iraq War a good idea?
Why do you think Jennifer's a Republican?
Wow. I think somebody got to her at an early age.
So why do I think Jennifer's Republican? Because she's smart. And all smart people really are Republican.
I don't know. Why am I a Democrat? I don't know if I can answer that question.
She doesn't drive a Volvo.
Maybe she became a Republican much like I did, just because that's where you happened to end up when you wanted to work in your first campaign. I don't know.
Are your parents Republicans?
I voted Democratic until after I married your mom.
I was working for McGovern. I was taking leaflets door to door, and I got sworn at, and I got doors slammed in my face, and I got called a traitor, and it was pretty ugly. I kept going door to door. And that was my first experience with the political process.
Your mother needed a summertime job, and she could get a job with the Indianapolis Parks Department as a recreation leader. And in order to do that, she needed to be a registered Republican, so we went down and registered Republicans. In fact, we might have already been in the House, and the mayor of Indianapolis lived across the street from us. And so we got to know him, and that's Richard Lugar. You know, he didn't have to put on airs. It was not a political thing, it was being a person. So it was nice to learn that he was a good guy. And so as time went on, I just stayed as a Republican.
Anyway, you know, she's looked at all the issues and figured out that that's the way she wants to go, and that's a good thing.
And a good example, I don't know Jen's situation or how you grew up or anything, but I can tell that whatever happened, it's allowed her at this point to be able to have a lot of different interests and to focus on goals that she thinks are important, to achieve them, and to interact with people in a way that is very positive for everybody, and therefore to be effective.
That's one of my favorite pictures. I remember that as us held all of our toys. Remember Dad's workshop?
Oh, man!
Does this look familiar?
Can you keep this for my kids, Dad?
That's why it's still here.
Look at that, Christopher. Remember you little...
Every year Santa Claus would make you some toys. In the beginning it was a little walker. This is the only part that's left. I missed that one.
How late did you stay up that night working on it?
I don't know, but it was after being at Muffs and having a lot of champagne. So you can imagine it was frustrating.
Oh, it's the box with all the locks on it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I remember that.
Remember this?
Oh, Dad, don't give that away.
No, I'm not.
And the roof.
And the roof.
Fred built a very intricate tree house that wandered. It had little levels, and I think it had, if I remember correctly, had like a little swinging bridge or a little bridge from one level to another, and a little ladder up into a house. And they enjoyed that a lot, and I don't remember what kinds of games they played in there, just a lot of running around and having fun. It was a very nice neighborhood, a good place for kids to grow up.
Christopher had an obsession with dinosaurs when he was little, and we always knew he was going to be an artist because he got a book out of the library, How to Learn How to Draw Dinosaurs. Well, Christopher's taken this literally and learned how to draw dinosaurs inside the library book. So she started making this cake for our birthday, and she had little dinosaur cookie cutters, and she'd make a little indentation in the cake and then frost it with dinosaurs, and therefore it has always been known as dinosaur cake, always made on each one of our birthdays.
I was a French teacher in Indianapolis from the time I graduated from college in 1969. When I was teaching, we were doing mandatory busing, and it was just a fiasco for kids who went both directions. It was a very ugly thing in terms of kids being uprooted from their community schools and being sent other places, and parents not being able to participate in their lives at school because it was across town. Some kids rode a bus for an hour and a half or 2 hours to get to the school where they were being sent. And so it was not working well, and IPS decided to try something different, which had been tried around the country, which was to create magnet schools where families would voluntarily say, I'd really like my child to be a part of this school. And Montessori was one of those choices. Montessori really respects the child at the developmental level they're at currently. The classrooms are multi-age, so you might have kindergarten and first graders together. Children learn from each other. It was sort of the concept of the old one-room school, only brought down to just 2 or 3 age groups together. We had everything from sort of leftover 70s hippies to people who were Jehovah's Witnesses. It was a real expanse of people. The teachers were very accepting and inclusive.
If blacks vote in great numbers, progressive whites win. It's the only way progressive whites win. If blacks vote in great numbers, Hispanics win. When blacks, Hispanics, and progressive whites vote, women win. When women win, children win. When women and children win, workers win. We must all come up together. We must come up together.
It was a very liberal.
Without using the word liberal, how would you define what their perspective was?
It was help the poor people who have no ability, help everybody suffering in the world, help, it doesn't matter if you have to raise taxes and why do some people have money and other people don't have money, and, socialized health care, and, basically everybody should be pretty much on an equal footing, and it's not fair for some to have and some to not have. And I came at it from a different perspective, which is everybody has their own mindset and their own ability to do things. And so why is it that I can't work really hard in a field that I want to work at and make a ton of money and keep some of that money for myself as opposed to sharing it with everybody else?
1982. Reaganomics sinks our country into the deepest recession and unemployment in 50 years. Now Ronald Reagan says the economy is moving up. It is, up on a mountain of debt and record Reagan deficits, more borrowing than all the other presidents in history combined. That'll drive interest rates up, slow the economy down, and then, if you're thinking of voting for Ronald Reagan in 1984, think of what'll happen in 1985.
Mr. Reagan will raise taxes, and so will I. He won't tell you. I just did.
I have a projection, one we have all been waiting for with some interest and curiosity. It is from Minnesota. We project that in Minnesota, Walter Mondale has won his home state, and the first state he has won this evening.
I think that's just been arranged.
I dropped church about the time that I left Fred.
I needed God in my life, so I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and if I die, then I'm going to be in heaven.
Ew. I think Christopher probably is old enough to know that it wasn't as perfect as it looked. Jennifer was still quite a bit younger.
I figured there was something wrong. I wasn't sure what, because I won't go into details, but there was a
lot of anger in that house.
There was a lack of intimacy.
He's very particular about how things were to be, and if they weren't that way, it upset him considerably.
Is Christopher Sollars. He's just about 9. This is a project for him. It's gotten me award. I weigh 54 lb pounds, and I'm 4.5 feet tall. I drew a picture of my family.
I remember how very horrible it was to sit them down and tell them that we were separating. In fact, the timing of that was very strange. I told Fred in November, in fact it was on his birthday, I told him that I wanted to divorce him, and we decided, mostly me, that we wouldn't tell the children till after Christmas. We would have a nice Christmas and then we'd tell them afterwards. Even though I knew that this was something I needed to do, that for a long time I didn't say it to Fred because I knew how hard it was going to be.
These things I like to do: eat, laugh, play, read, work, tell stories, sleep, run, shout. Shout.
I know for Christopher that my sense is that he would have been a very different young man if I had stayed in that marriage.
And obviously, we hope that diplomacy works before you ever use force. The hardest decision a president makes is ever to use force. After 9/11, we had to look at the world differently. I vowed to our countrymen that I would do everything I could to protect the American people. That's why we're bringing Al Qaeda to justice. 75% of them have been brought to justice.
What we want is justice done.
That's why I said to Afghanistan, if you harbor a terrorist, you're just as guilty as a terrorist.
At what point can you pay off to terrorists without endangering people from here on out once they find out that their tactics succeed?
Members of Congress, if you vote for more American support for the Contras in Nicaragua, will it be a vote for heroism or terrorism?
Gradually, it became increasingly clear that what we were talking about was a swamp of weapons for hostages, and then we got into the whole area of funding being provided for the Contras through a backdoor kind of an arrangement.
As I've stated previously, I believe our policy goals toward Iran were well-founded. However, the information brought to my attention yesterday convinced me that in one aspect, implementation of that policy was seriously flawed.
Iran-Contra was the moment I became politically conscious. It was the same time my parents were getting divorced, and nobody was taking any responsibility for their actions.
You know, we're talking about tearing down the wall and you ran Contra. That's not the first thing I think of when I think of Ronald Reagan.
I don't even think of Iran-Contra Reagan.
I'm having some trouble remembering that.
He's caught between that dilemma of either being accused of having known or being accused of having not known. Whichever it was is bound to lead to some criticism.
He was deceiving the inspectors. Secondly, of course we've been involved with Iran. I fully understand the threat.
That was Jaw. This is the elitist.
Consider yourself as an environmentalist. What specifically has your administration done to improve the condition of our nation's air and water supply?
Off-road diesel engines, we have reached an agreement to reduce pollution from off-road diesel engines by 90%.
Yes.
I proposed to the United States Congress a Clear Skies initiative to reduce sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxide, and mercury by 70%.
He's a great man.
Very strong title in the Farm Bill for the Conservation Reserve
Hydrogen,
Program to
talk
set
about
aside
hydrogen.
millions of acres of land to help improve wildlife
Forest
policy. Now, I'm going to tell you what I really think is going to happen over time is technology is going to change the way we live for the good for the environment. That's why I proposed a hydrogen automobile, hydrogen-generated automobile. We're spending $1 billion to come up with the technologies to do that. That's why I'm a big proponent of clean coal technology, to make sure we can use coal, but in a clean way.
Yes,
The quality of the air is cleaner since I've been the president.
Yes, you do.
Fewer water complaints since I've been the president. More land being restored since I've been the president.
It's true. Yep.
Thank you for your question.
Yes.
Senator Kerry, a minute and a half.
I think the most times I remember them being together is if we went on vacation somewhere.
Yeah, like the Channel Lakes. Remember the Channel Lakes house? I mean, we were all together because we were kind of forced to be together. Other than that, I don't remember a lot of togetherness. And I wonder what it's like now, you know?
We had to pick up a lot of trash.
Oh, that was, you wanted to get the badges for the state forest. And so to do that, we had to do, pick up trash, we had to go to classes, we had to, that's part of doing Boy Scout things, you know, is that with Boy Scouts, you want to make sure it looks better when you leave than, as you said, than when you arrived.
The president, I don't think, is living in a world of reality with respect to the environment.
No,
now, if
he's
you're a
living
Red
in
Sox
reality,
fan, that's
you're living
okay.
in
But if
dream
you're a
world.
president, it's not.
You're living in a
Let me just
religious
say to you,
world.
number one, don't throw
dying,
labels
we're dying.
around. Labels don't mean anything.
See, it's
Exactly.
the liberal
I
label.
supported welfare reform. I
We're
led
not
the
talking
fight to put
about welfare
100,000
reform, we're
cops
talking
on the
about the
streets of
environment.
America. I've been for faith-based initiatives helping
does
to
not
intervene in the lives of
talk
young
about the
children
environment.
for years.
He can up 10 ways,
I was
exactly
broke
10
with
ways
my
he's gonna
party
make the
in
environment.
1985, one of the first three
The one
Democrats
thing he's going to do
to
is
fight
put
for
in some money
balanced
into a
budget
trust
when it was
fund.
heresy.
And
Labels don't fit, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when it comes to the issue of the environment, this is one of the worst administrations in modern history.
But he's already used
The Clear Skies bill that he just talked about, it's one of those Orwellian names you pull out of the sky, slap it onto something like No Child Left Behind, but you leave millions of children behind.
Especially in
Here they're
Nebraska.
leaving the skies and the environment behind. If they just left the Clean Air Act all alone the way it is today, no change, the air would be cleaner than it is if you pass the Cleaner Skies Act. We're going backwards. In fact, his environmental enforcement chief air quality person at the EPA resigned in protest over what they're doing to what are called the new source performance standards for air quality. They're going backwards on the definition for wetlands. They're going backwards on the water quality. They pulled out of the global warming, declared it dead, didn't even accept the science.
You disavowed the Kyoto
I'm going to be a
Protocol.
president
When
who
you
believes
asked
in
the
science. Mr. President?
And I just told you the facts, sir. The quality of the air is cleaner since I've been the President of the United States.
Senator Richard Lugar, the Republican chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee, said that the handling of the reconstruction aid in Iraq by this administration has been incompetent.
Wrong war at the wrong time at the wrong place. Elections.
Being able to walk around, it gives him his mind to think when he's walking.
I hear there's rumors on the internets. Thought he had weapons.
He's still on principle.
Somebody call that stubborn. This war is a long, long war. We're not going to have a draft, period. That answer almost made me want to scout. People see the marketing right now. It's especially liberty can change that. I got to answer this. I don't see a great country. It denigrates an alliance. I love our values.
This is going to hopefully become the lockbox, the plan. Right. Yeah, the lockbox.
When I first met you, you were the most uptight little boy. I mean, everything had to be by the rules, and it was either, I've been told this is the way we should do it, and we should always do it this way. Well, you know, I'm pretty free and easy, you know. And you were constantly saying to me, you know, you're not supposed to do that, or does Mama know you're doing that? You know, constantly.
Should I light it again?
No. Because I used to like to shoot off fireworks. Well, it was illegal, you know. And I think, you know, that was a real conflict for you because, you know, you enjoyed seeing the fireworks. You know that's against the law. I said, yeah, I know. Isn't it great?
Well, is a lesbian a terrorist?
Can be. Yeah, there was a group of lesbians who were terrorists. What were their names? What was that group called?
She dated a couple of people before she met Sandy.
I think for Jennifer especially, it was easier to see me hanging out with friends who were women than to see her dad hanging out with friends who were women.
Sandy, I thought, was the coolest person in the world because the first time I met her, she brought Klondike bars.
That's
the
cool.
second time I met her, she brought a dog.
We were living on my salary and child support. Sandy was making a lot of money. She was working for Ford, and she was an engineer.
And I had just gotten paid that day, and I threw my check stub on the end of the island. Jennifer's, what was she, 6 or 7? 7. She walks over, and she picks up my check stub, and looks at it, and said, "Which one of these numbers is what you get?" And I laughed, and I showed her, and she says, "That's a lot of money, isn't it?"
But she approved of you.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Had money and Klondike bars. What more could you want, you know?
I loved the house that we lived in with Sandy, and then Sandy, kind of drove a sports car and built this big house, and we had a pool, and we had our huge bedrooms and our own bathrooms, and Sandy kind of showed us the luxuries of life, actually. It kind of seemed like I wanted it more after it was all like taken away.
I'm not your dad. I wasn't your dad. What you started doing was coming to me for things that I really felt like you should be going to your dad for.
If I remember right, you're the youngest Eagle Scout I've even run into, because you had to get your Eagle Scout if you're going to do it before you moved to Maine, and that was like at 13 and a half, I think. Did you get the full benefit? I think you probably got a crash course in a lot of things. And you were at the age where you could focus to get things done, and was going through a lot of turmoil, I would imagine also. It's hard to, but all I remember is that the older you got, the less I saw you guys.
And then my Girl Scout box that Dad made was in there too, with this, after probably 10 years. Some thumbtacks, some hair ties, a pencil, 6 cents, and a little dish.
We were together well over a year before I ever intervened or did anything at all. For whatever reason, she wasn't able to, discipline Christopher or provide any kind of limits. And he yelled at her one day, and I picked him up by his shoulders and slammed him up against the wall and got in his face, and I yelled at him. And I told him that he couldn't talk to her that way. He couldn't talk to us that way, that we didn't talk to him that way, and he was never going to do it again.
What was that? You don't want to hear that again.
I wondered too if it didn't somehow get Christopher's attention that you finally spoke up.
Well, they don't like me and I don't like them. I wish they'd shut their mouths and go to work and keep their private matters to themselves and get their mentality out of their crotches.
I think both children were sensitive to the fact that who I was and how I lived was a private issue, and if it were more public, it would create problems for me and for Sandy.
Oh, wait, wow, look, there's Libya.
Gaddafi and other Libyan officials have publicly admitted that the Libyan government has abetted and supported the notorious Abu Nidal terrorist group, which was directly responsible for the Rome and Vienna attacks.
Look, it's the lesbians.
All right.
What?
You remember that, Dad?
No.
So next we hear that Christopher has gone to his dad's.
We were watching Back to the Future, and the Libyan terrorists come to get Michael J. Fox,
who capture people in the parking lot. Only
Christopher's sitting there, and all of a sudden he goes, "Oh no, it's the lesbians!"
And at that point I'm horrified because we've not ever spoken to Fred about anything and don't intend to, because in Indiana, if he wanted the children, because I was an out lesbian, he could have taken them.
But I still felt that it was important that you stay with your mom, so, I mean, I could have used that to fight, but I didn't want to put you through any more stress than you were going through. I mean, that's a lot of stress.
So we were trying to be very circumspect about that word being thrown around, and here comes a lesbian terrorist in the middle of a movie, so.
You know, it was easier for me to see you and to relate to you when you still lived in Indianapolis. But when you moved to Maine,
and most kids don't have to like move to a house with no freaking walls in it. You liked the building the house, and I freaking hated every second of it. Living in a tent, slugs on the tent. I went from a big class to a class with like 10 people in it, in a trailer. That was awful.
And it was nothing we did intentionally to hurt anybody. We wanted to simplify our lives, have Christopher and Jennifer growing up in a place that was comfortable and quiet and safe.
Now that's gonna be hard, you know? Because I think Dad really enjoyed spending time with us.
For New Hampshire next Friday night. I'm going to go up there and take my vacation time to campaign for the president.
And she can tell people she grew up in a log cabin with no walls and
Forced to wear flannel
forced
shirts.
to wear flannel shirts, you know, the female Abe Lincoln.
Do not put that in the documentary.
Samuel, sure. How about you?
Yeah, right there. Let me say first that I think the Vice President and his wife love their daughter. I think they love her very much. And you can't have anything but respect for the fact that they're willing to talk about the fact that they have a gay daughter, the fact that they embrace her. It's a wonderful thing.
Well, Gwen, let me simply thank the Senator for the kind words he said about my family and our daughter. I appreciate that very much.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hey, Muff.
Hi, Christopher.
So who did you end up voting for?
Well, the Democrats. I wasn't too happy with either. Hello? Who did I vote for?
Yeah.
John Kerry.
Why did you end up voting for John Kerry?
To vote against George Bush.
Well, I had to think about it, but I voted for Kerry.
And why was that?
Well, because he doesn't make me retch and vomit.
Why I should vote for Bush today?
Because he's going to lead the country against the terrorists. He's a phenomenal president. I think he's going to do better on national security issues, and I like his business policies. So.
And this one woman at the grocery store, Barb said, "So who are you going to vote for?" And she says, "Well, I got to vote for President Bush because we better stick with him. There's a mess in Iraq." And I said, "Yeah, but he's the one that made it."
Okay. So can I rope you into radio this week, please, please?
Yeah, talk to Pam or Nicole.
Julie Cram.
Okay.
Julie Cram.
Julie Cram?
Yes. Tell her you saw me.
It's a deal.
All right, buddy.
For me, it's an economic issue and not a social issue. Social issue for me has been taken out of the equation by the way I was raised. Do I think there should be a constitutional amendment banning gay marriage? No.
Sir. Mr. Rowe, how are you, buddy?
Hi, Carl.
Sir.
So are you saying if I work for Bush, am I compromising some of my beliefs?
Yeah.
No. I worked for Bush in the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy, doing energy projects for the Department of Energy and for the United States, and I believe in what I do every single day.
We make God mad. I really believe
that the pagans and the abortionists and the feminists and the gays and the lesbians who are actively trying to make that an alternative lifestyle, the ACLU, People for the American Way, all of them who tried to secularize America, I point the finger in their face and say, you helped this happen.
When Jennifer was little, or even a teenager, I really thought, especially since she was involved in Amnesty International, and I remember being very proud of her. She'd always been sort of homophobic, worried about what her friends would think, but when she gave her little valedictorian speech at the 8th grade graduation, she spoke very clearly about rights for people. She said the word homosexuals, and that made me very proud that she was able to take that little step out of the closet with us to stand up for people's rights. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I can't think of anything else.
A little bit further ahead than we wanted.
Yeah, I got you.
It's been a nightmare of a day because somebody put super glue in all of our locks this morning, so we couldn't get into the office at 4 a.m. We had to call the police, and then a bunch of our tires have been slashed on our transportation vehicles.
Fuck.
Yeah,
Fuck.
that's how ugly it is.
It's now time to take the official convention photograph. Would all of the delegates please rise and turn toward the back of the hall? There you go. Thank you. Face the camera. You see the gentleman waving in the back.
I hope that the one man, one woman marriage amendment gets passed, at least get it started. I see him continuing on with the war on terror and being aggressive, because it was very frightening here in the East when that happened. I don't think people in the rest of the country really realize the amount of terror that we had when this was going on. If we're just going to negotiate our way out of it, I don't think that's going to work. But it's the people of the United States that vote for it. So
You're off to a meeting?
Yes, I'm going to a deacon's meeting. Have fun with all your talks.
Okay.
Yep.
Love you.
Love you too. Bye.
Bye. I had a crazy dream the other night that John Kerry, like halfway through this evening, or right before even all the voters had stopped voting, he came out and announced that he was withdrawing from the race and that he had lost.
Oh, God.
That was like a dream I had like 2 nights ago.
Well, that's not true.
Right. It's just a dream.
And before we go to non-election news of this day, car bombs killed at least a dozen people in Iraq. In Baghdad, a suicide attacker plowed into barriers outside the Ministry of Education, killing 8 people, wounding up to 29 others. 4 more Iraqis were killed in Mosul when a car bomb exploded near a military convoy. Trading futures fell 53 cents to settle at $49.60 a barrel. On Wall Street today, the Dow Jones Industrial Average lost more than 18 points, closed below 10,036. The AP's projected electoral vote totals had President Bush with 170 electoral votes, Senator Kerry with 112. It takes 270 to win the presidency.
We're down by a point or 2.
Yeah, it's
But I really don't care if we lose New Hampshire if we win the election.
Hurry up, Pete. Thank you.
We are not at headquarters. We are hanging out, just chilling in our room.
I believe I will win. Thank you very much.
How do you think it's going to fall?
I think we're going to win.
In the state of Idaho.
John Kerry wins California.
The state of Arizona, it goes to...
We're trapped.
You could lose it tonight.
He doesn't have Ohio.
Kerry just lost Florida.
ABC News has called Florida for President Bush. The only one to do so.
Martinez got, yeah, we're up though, we're up.
33 points away from winning right now.
Oh, yeah, man.
Florida went to Bush.
Yeah. Yeah, baby.
Well, I know it's hard to believe, but some damn stupid things have happened in this country, and somehow we've survived. And we're all going to find a way not to sit back, because he only has half the country, and he knows it. The Vietnam War, that was a very divisive thing, but it didn't change the internal workings of the country like this is going to. And my God, he's got the Supreme Court.
You know why Ohio fell to Bush?
No.
Because they put the gay marriage amendment in that state.
Mm-hmm.
That is
That's
the reason it polarized Ohio.
A gay marriage for me, I don't give a shit,
Mm-hmm.
has cost us. I mean, I'd like the civil union, I'd like the rights, but it doesn't have to be marriage. It's cost us the election.
I pledge to do my part, to try to bridge the partisan divide. I know this is a difficult time for my supporters, but I ask them, all of you, to join me in doing that.
So today I want to speak to every person who voted for my opponent. To make this nation stronger and better, I will need your support, and I will work to earn it. I will do all I can do to deserve your trust. A new term is a new opportunity to reach out to the whole nation.
Is Bush reaching out right now? What are you doing, Chris, huh? You've never talked to your dad about your mom being a lesbian? If he found out, then we would have to go live with him. Didn't he know you were living with Sandy? Yeah, I guess you're right. Ask your dad about your mom being gay.
Well, let's put it in a positive. I try to love everybody, okay? Some people, there's no reason to hate anybody. And so whether they're straight, they're lesbian, they're black, they're white, they're purple, they're green, they're a tree, you try to be friendly and as close as you can love anybody. Doesn't mean that you agree with what they're doing, but that's what they're doing doesn't mean you can't like them. And is it upsetting to me? I think it goes back to the intimacy that was the problem, not your mother said that she didn't realize she was a lesbian until we were splitting up. Okay, so fine, I deal with it. It's I pointed out I didn't have any bitterness. There's no reason to be bitter about it. I mean, why? What can I do about it? Right. So I feel like anybody should go to church. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Whether or not they hold a position in the church of leadership, then I have a problem with that, because I believe in what I believe the Bible was written by man, but it was directed by God. So what is in the Bible, it was put there by God, and that I believe that that marriage should be between a man and a woman, and that if you are a lesbian or a gay or whatever, then you practicing, you should not be in any leadership in the church. Okay? But that doesn't mean you shouldn't become members of a church. You shouldn't be loved in a church. It shouldn't be. It's hard to. I think if anybody wants to come to God, then that's what God wants.
Was there a shift between the two of us in terms of our relationship with each other? Did that happen when we moved to Maine? Did that happen when we were in high school together?
I think
or
it
like
had to
what?
do with getting older. You guys could be best friends and you could be driving each other crazy.
Mm-hmm.
You were better at it than she was. You knew exactly what buttons to push on Jennifer, and you could just send her right across the room. I don't know if it would be unusual that kids did or didn't come closer together when their parents were divorcing, but I didn't see you two do that. I mean, did you see that happen?
No.
No. So I think that was sort of the end of this really close relationship the two of you had, and I think you're closer right now than you've been since then, in terms of at least communicating. Because you both went very different directions, and both of you disapproved of each other, so.
Oh, that's where I cry my eyes out.
Jennifer Sollars, Emily Webb.
Why'd you cry your eyes out?
No, because I saw my daughter's whole life go before me right on a play. You know, she was a kid, she grew up, got married, and died. Wow. Sandy sent that to me.
Did she really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
By the way, as California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. It's inevitable. This door's wide open now. It's gonna happen, whether you like it or not. This is the future, and it's now.
The number you have reached is not in service. Thank you for calling Fox 56.
You've reached the voicemail of Jahan Quayle in the United States Department of Energy.
Hi, you've reached Jennifer Sollars with PPL Corporation. Please leave me a detailed message at the tone, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks. Bye-bye.
It seemed like the right time, and I found the right job, and I'm a lobbyist for an energy company.
Is it possible you might vote for someone other than a Republican?
Possibly. We'll see what happens.
Both of you seem to be using your strengths that you have, which is, what else can you ask for? You know, maybe grandkids, but who's going to have them first? You know.
And then you haven't even. You still have one in the
The house.
house.
Well, I kid her about it, that she's my grandchild, but it's different having Emily around because I'm going through things I never went through with you guys. I'm finally kind of realizing what your mother was going through.
You'll just
Wonderful
love my
kids.
children. They're absolutely perfect. And I thought, what world is this woman living in? Where are these fucking kids? Anybody that says their kids are perfect, there's something bad wrong.
Then why didn't you run away from her?
Because I loved her. Because I couldn't. I thought about it. But
Many
I couldn't.
times, yeah.
I thought about it, but I couldn't. It, for some reason, you know.
Thick or thin.
This is it.
Sickness and health.
Yeah.
Hell or high water.
Oh yeah.
Two
And there's
perfect
been
kids.
and there's been a lot of both. Yes.